No shock today. I think Cindy foreshadowed this at the reception last night. We're here to present our first ever Tree Wizard Award to Dr. Greg McPherson. Dr. Greg. So I think the reason that I've been picked as one of the designees to talk about this and present this honor to Dr. McPherson is that I honestly haven't known Greg all that long, maybe 8-10 years. But a few years ago, when we were finishing up a grant program through the federal government regarding the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, and we were trying to figure out where relief was going to go next, opportunity kind of came knocking in the realm of public policy as we were looking at, hey, so there's this law, AB 32, and there's going to be some legislation around it that's going to generate revenues, and supposedly the law dictates that these revenues are going to have to go to projects that reduce greenhouse gases. And should we look at this? And not surprisingly, there was kind of an overwhelming yes, we should. And my boss at the time, Joe Leszewski, when he and I were talking, I said, well, where do I start? And it was a very easy answer, and it was talk to Greg McPherson. So that's really where I started to get to know Greg a little bit better. And what I learned from my initial conversations with him, as you all know, probably long before I did, is that he's just a wealth of knowledge. And he is one of the reasons, if not one of the primary reason, that we are succeeding the way we are in the realm of public policy and research, and continue to be leading the nation in how we're adopting urban forestry policy, urban forestry science, and turning our Golden State into a greener, healthier place to live. One of the things that I learned in my initial discussions with him, which turned into a series of discussions at least twice a year, was that we already had the science in place to make our case, which most people did not. So out of the gate, we had an edge, thanks to Dr. McPherson, in terms of being able to demonstrate to decision makers in the administration, at the Air Resources Board, at Cal EPA, and at the legislature, that urban forests do in fact reduce greenhouse gases, in addition to the multiple co-benefits. And we were asked to quantify those numbers. We had them, thanks to Greg. So it was a fantastic experience. And it's no mistake that out of the gate, the first year that cap and trade revenues were distributed, we were in that mix, and we've been there ever since when there has been an expenditure plan. And it's really started with the initial conversation with Greg. This is what we're going to try to do in Sacramento. How can we support this with data? And the wealth of data that he gave me was overwhelming, but he also helped me understand it and took the time to walk me through the research wonkiness of it so that I could translate into ledge speak and do my job and help all of us do ours. So from that point, we've collaborated on comments for the Forest Carbon Plan, turning that into a better document, climate adaptation and resiliency, recognizing the role urban forestry plays there. I'd say easily a half dozen collaborations over the last several years on lengthy documents that, if they're written solely from the research perspective, they're going to go over everyone's head in the administration. And if they're written solely from a policy perspective, they're not going to have the impact because the data and the science isn't there. So it's just been a real treat to work with Greg. And he's not normally used to me being serious. I think the last time I publicly applauded him, it was for his innovations in tree topping. So I hope I'm not throwing you off base here when I just sincerely thank you for all you've done for our job in advancing urban forestry at the state and making it an integral part of what we're doing in safeguarding California and health and all policies and greenhouse gas reductions and job creation and all the data that you provided and helped us shape the materials and the policies that are going to inform this issue area for decades to come. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Igor.
So from the sort of sciencey side, it'll surprise you that Greg McPherson did not come up with the idea that trees grow and that they store carbon and that they intercept water and that they manage stormwater. Those were actually not Greg McPherson's ideas. What Greg and his collaborators did is take those ideas and actually quantify them in the urban setting. So, and I can say this, and I would say this anywhere, there are roughly 2 research groups that are responsible for the shape of urban forest benefit quantification that we have today. Greg McPherson is one of them. So when Chuck said because the data is there because of Greg. And I can't, we went in the last 25 years roughly from concepts, trees are good, and here's sort of what you might want to think about why trees are good, to being able to quantify from year to year to year benefits of urban trees. And this is an incredible amount of work, much of which is, shall we say, unsexy, but remeasuring trees, for example, to see what they're, to actually quantify their growth rate in urban settings from year to year allows us to have this data that then is convincing because it's based on real field research. And Greg not only pioneered a whole number of technical aspects of this, but then went one step further and, unlike a number of academic researchers, translated all of this into language that's understandable to all of us. And I can certainly say when I was starting out in urban forestry, one of the first things I read were Greg's urban tree benefit calculations because they were readable, unlike some of the earlier work that was very conceptual, very technical. You know, what model is used to model solids deposition on trees? Who? So, no, let's instead start with Greg's paper and then work back from that. And so, certainly, Greg's work was the main part of the introduction to urban forestry for me, and for that I'm thankful. But I think for all of us who are in this world, Greg really did some of the basic work that allows us to do what we do. So, thank you, Greg. Thank you for all you've done.
So we struggled with the idea of how to best recognize Greg for all his achievements in California and advancing urban forestry in the multiple ways that he has. And obviously a plaque. Well, he doesn't have an office to put it in anymore. How about a book on trees? I bet he doesn't have one of those. Well, no. And finally, the creative brainstorming in California Relief, to the extent it exists, came up with this idea that I'm actually going to let Amelia discuss.
Whoa. Wow. It's, for every wizard needs its wand or its cane. So we have a staff. That's it. And I will just say that this was painted just last week by an artist and came out very nice, and it's durable, and they base it on your height. So I hope you have like a proportional height that will work with that. Got his initials on it. It has the Relief logo on it, and Tree Wizard. And it's got a trail. And I think Torin, no, who was I standing with last week, said this guy would be a good tattoo artist. If anyone wants to, you know, some ideas around their leg, there's some good imagery on there.
And don't tell Greg, but we also had it chipped, so if he's ever lost, we'll know how to find him. Yeah, exactly. All right, how about a few words, Greg?
Well, gosh, thank you so much. Thank you, Igor and Chuck, Cindy. You guys are my tree heroes. You're in the trenches day in and day out, getting the trees planted, taking care of the trees. It's been a pleasure to work with you and to provide some science that you can use. It's been an honor, and there just isn't a better group of people to work with than all of you. I feel so lucky to have somehow ended up in the world of tree people like yourselves. And, you know, you all are just so generous-hearted. You're so passionate. You're so trying to make the world a better place for our children and our children's children. And you know, you're loving. And so it's just been an honor to be working with this community. And I also just want to thank all of my colleagues who I couldn't have done this without, you know, Jim Simpson and Paula Pepper and Chinfu Shao, and Jim Geiger and Colleen Vargas, and all of the team that I was fortunate to work with. So thank you so much. And I would like to end, I may not be here for the break, but I would like to end with a tree cheer, which is, I began in 1986 as the co-founder of Trees for Tucson. And we were, which was a nonprofit, and Joan Leonetti was the head of Tucson Clean and Beautiful and said we want to form a tree group. And I got drafted as the co-chair, and we wanted to plant desert trees, but the water company was trying to conserve water, so I had to begin to account for the benefits of the trees, because the water company knew that they used a lot of water and that it was going to cost money. So that's how I got started in trying to quantify the benefits of trees. Yeah, and I just about killed myself with our first tree planting event, which was one event every day of the week in October. So, yeah, we were totally naive. And I learned that it's not so simple. Well, it may be simple to plant a tree, but planting them every day in, you know, the high school and the parking lot and the church, and it was, yeah. So I appreciate all that goes into putting together an event and the work that you do, not just planting, but in stewardship and making sure that those trees thrive. So it's a tough task. So keep up the good work, and let me lead a tree cheer. So if everyone can just stand up. Once again. All right, so the way we do this is and this is how I used to begin the meeting of Trees for Tucson, and then subsequently some of my presentations. But so you put your arms up like you are a tree, and you wave your arms and your fingers like the branches and the leaves of the tree, and then you yell tree. So we're going to do that like tree. So we're going to do that. We're going to do like 3 times. So tree, tree.